Okay guys, how's it going? Today I'm making a hearty vegetable garden loaf. This is packed with flavour, absolutely perfect with soups or stews. It's a rustic and colourful loaf and it's a great way to use up your garden veg. This isn't a loaf for making sandwiches or toast. It's a bread for dunking. This is one of those loaves that you can basically put nearly anything you want in. But some things are essential, and that's the flour. I'm using the Matthews Cotswold flour, 8 grain. I love this one. We need yeast. I'm using instant yeast. Sugar, salt. I'm using vegetable stock instead of water for this one. A few herbs. I'm using oregano and paprika. And for the vegetables, I'm using a carrot and a courgette and some olives. Okay, the olives aren't strictly garden, but they're going in this one. As usual, the ingredients will appear on the screen as I use them, and the full recipe will be at the end of the video. And towards the end as well, we'll discuss the different vegetables, different ingredients you can use. If you're using a watery vegetable, for example, courgette, aubergine, summer squash or tomatoes, they'll benefit, in fact they probably must, be salted. This is where you grate them or chop them up, put them in a colander, add a tablespoon of salt and leave them for 10 minutes, half an hour. This draws the excess moisture out of the vegetables and makes the bread a bit less soggy. So I grated my courgette and put it into a colander and sprinkled in about a tablespoon of salt. Set this aside for, like I said, about a quarter of an hour to get that moisture drawn out. Meanwhile, time to grate the carrot. I love this box grater. I don't know how I've ever managed without one before, you know. I had an IKEA one, a little bit more awkward to use. And this one, when it's on its side like this, it's an eye-opener. I don't know who suggested doing it, but thank you very much. It is so much easier than standing it up. And chef's perks, eat the little bit left over at the end. Thank you very much. Put the grated carrot into a bowl, set that aside as well. And then time to chop up the olives. Like I said, not strictly a garden vegetable, but olives in bread, classic. Finely chop these. Speed this bit up. You gotta have a bit of fast motion in a cooking video. And once again, set these to one side. Now, something a bit different with this loaf. I'm using vegetable stock instead of water. Just checking the instructions there to see how much to add. We need about 250 ml of liquid, and that turned out to be 1 teaspoon of the vegetable bouillon stock. I'm using my stand mixer to make this loaf. What is this? The Sage Bakery Boss. I'll tell you what, it really is a robust mixer. It really is good. So into the mixing bowl, I put some sugar, instant yeast and the stock. Give it a mixing, set it to one side for 10 minutes. This proves that the yeast is okay. Not that we really need to with instant yeast, but we're waiting for the courgettes to drain anyway, so why not? Okay, the courgettes have had their quarter of an hour now. Rinse them in a colander to get rid of the excess salt and just squeeze the gratings to dry them out a little bit more. Pop the bowl onto the stand mixer and add your oil. I'm using olive oil for this one. You can use melted butter. About a tablespoon of either will do. In with the bread flour, 500 grams, and like I said, I'm using the 8 grain one again. I thought the grainy texture would be great with a vegetable loaf. In with the chopped olives, in with the grated courgettes, and in with the carrots. And finally, some herbs and spices. I'm using dried oregano for this, and some smoked paprika. I say dried, I think dried works a lot better with breads. Now you can use whatever you want with this loaf. It all depends on your intended audience, if you know what I mean. If you're using carrots, a bit of ginger, a bit of cinnamon, cumin, dill, parsley. If you've got some chunky cauliflower in there, cauliflower works well, so does coriander and turmeric again. If you've got lumps of potato, rosemary, thyme, paprika, chives, even fennel with this one. And with tomatoes, a bit of basil, bit of oregano, garlic and thyme again. Now if you've got a themed meal, like an Italian minestrone soup, basil, marjoram, oregano, rosemary, sage, savoury and thyme. How about for a Cajun jambalaya soup or stew? Cumin, garlic, hot peppers, or even flaky sweet pepper and some oregano. Oh, I'll tell you what, there's so much you can do with this loaf. And you'll see here I'm adding a load more flour. The mix was just so wet, it was just too wet. Quite a lot of flour went in actually, about an extra 50 grams or so. Maybe my initial estimate was a little bit wrong, but it all came together in the end. Once the ingredients had come together and started to look like a dough, I kneaded it for 8 to 10 minutes. And to counter the fast motion, here is the slow motion. Bit therapeutic this one, isn't it? You can actually see the gluten strands forming as they get stretched around the sides. The action is quite clever really. The orbital movement of the mixer combined with the shape of the dough hook and how the dough hangs on to the hook, scraping along the side of the bowl, it just stretches everything, and that is your kneading action. Saves a lot of hard work. This dough was done after 8 minutes, so tip it out onto a lightly floured work surface, form the dough into a ball, and then pop it into a greased bowl, leave it somewhere warm for about an hour until it's doubled in size. Like I said before, it's hard to judge when something has doubled in size when it's in a tapered shaped bowl. But hey ho, that's what we say. And don't forget to cover your bowl with a damp towel, or in my case, a disposable shower cap. If you don't do this, you can get a skin forming on the surface. Here we are after an hour, and it looks like it's doubled in size. If you're not sure if it's ready, poke your finger in. If it springs back too fast, it's underproofed. If the indentation stays there, it's overproofed. And if your finger hole comes back up very slowly, it's just about ready. Just like this. So tip the dough out onto a floured work surface again. Use your fingers to push the gases out. And then fashion the dough into whatever shape you want. I did top to bottom, bottom to top, right to left and left to right. And then press down firmly to seal the seams. Onto a lined baking sheet, and once again back into a warm place until it's doubled in size. And this is the time to get your oven on, preheating to 200 Celsius. Here's the dough, risen for, 30 minutes it was. You can add a bit of flour on top, a bit of an egg wash or something like that. I just slashed mine with a lame. Pop it in the oven for 30 minutes, have a check on it. If the top's getting too brown, put a piece of foil over it. Tap the bottom, and if it sounds hollow, we're done. Then onto a wire rack to cool down. Okay then, looking forward to trying this one. Nice, nice. I thought it'd be quite dense, but it is very crusty bottom. Bit without butter to start off with. Tasty. That is tasty. I'm going to butter that bit there. Get a photograph. Now, I've got a stew later on, and this will be perfect for dunking in a stew and soups. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, I am so glad I made that. That is brilliant. Look after yourselves, take care, and I'll catch you on the next recipe. Okay then, guys, that was my take on a vegetable garden loaf. It really was nice. I had it with stew that evening, and it really set the stew off. And a couple of things I would do different next time. I'd make the vegetable stock a little bit stronger, and I'd make the loaf half of the size. Luckily, yet again, my son came over, and he took half the loaf away with him. I only really needed 2 or 3 slices for the stew. I put a bit in the freezer, and Like I said, luckily he took the other half of the loaf. So next time, half the size. Now vegetables. There is such a choice. I don't know what to do next. Spinach, broccoli, peppers, aubergines. A hard vegetable one would be sweet carrot and beet. Bit of cheese in it. I really, really want to make a nice tomato one. So, well, watch out for the future, guys. Look after yourselves. Take care, and I will catch you on the next recipe.